Since its inception in 1998, the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, Cdd Ghana, has played a significant role in entrenching democracy and good governance in Ghana and elsewhere in Africa. Formed at a time when Ghana was stepping out of military dictatorship into constitutionalism, the center emerged as a strong advocate of democracy, the rule of law, and individual freedom. Under the leadership of Professor Jimabwedi, the center has evolved from a small organization with a few staff to a well-respected non-governmental organization headquartered in Accra, Ghana, with a staff strength of over 40 workers.
The idea of forming the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, Cdd Ghana, came jointly and severally to a couple of us, mainly friends. Dr. Bafo Ajmenduya, who had then returned from the United States to Ghana, a political scientist by training, and then William Yeboah, a businessman, management and finance specialist. H. Kwesi Prempeh, then in private legal practice in Washington, D.C., and yours truly. We came in because we saw a need to fill a gap that was existing then in the Ghanaian democracy and good governance promotion front. I should backtrack and say that by 1998, when we came in, the political space in Ghana had been substantially opened up. A number of civic advocacy groups were in operation, but we saw that we need to bring in and strengthen the aspect of civil advocacy that is based on solid research, sound analysis, and good data for backing advocacy.
With a vision to promote democracy and good governance in transitioning the young state, Cdd Ghana today is a well-respected household name associated with liberalism, constitutionalism, promotion of individual liberties, and public accountability.
I salute Professor Jimabwedi and his colleagues at CDD for being pioneers in the humdrum task of helping a society in need, to champion the Aristotelian quest for the good society, to advance the effective enlightened leadership, to inspire us all to move from thought to purposeful action.
I am particularly honored that I had the opportunity of working in the Cdd Ghana, both at the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, and most especially at the National Reconciliation Commission, where your sterling leadership qualities gingered us to aspire for the best and to seek that which will truly stand the test of time.
The center is governed by a 10-member board of directors with varied professional backgrounds, including legal, finance, business, and academia. The center chalked many successes over the years, working nationally and also internationally in collaboration with different partners. A key aspect of CDD's work is in the strengthening of election administration and processes in Ghana and Africa. In pushing this agenda, the Center spearheaded the formation of Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, made up of over 30 independent public and civil institutions and NGOs to observe elections in Ghana. CODEO has trained more than 10,000 election observers all over Ghana and Africa.
CODEO is the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, and it's made up of 30 secular and religious institutions, including the Christian Council, the Ahmadiyya Mission, and the Islamic Foundation, as well as professional bodies. And during the 2008 elections, it deployed some 4,000 observers throughout the country. It also did parallel voter tabulation, which is quite an innovation in these parts. And the PVT closely correlated vote counting that paralleled what was happening on the national level. Now, CODEO is also involved in violence work during elections, and CODEO also is involved in education during election periods. It works very closely with the Electoral Commission and the security services. So come 2012, next year, when we have elections, CODEO will be on the ground again.
The center also serves as the headquarters of the Afrobarometer Project, a survey of social, political, and economic attitudes on the African continent, as well as evolving attitudes towards democracy. The Afrobarometer survey is used by policymakers, donors, media, civil society groups, students, and researchers on democracy and governance in Africa.
Afrobarometer is an independent, non-partisan research project that measures the social, political, and economic atmosphere in Africa. It started in 1999, and to date we've had 4 rounds of Afrobarometer. In 2008, Afrobarometer covered 20 countries. The next Afrobarometer results will come out at the end of this year, and it will be Afrobarometer round 5, and it will cover 35 African countries. And this year, for the first time, Afrobarometer will be partnering the Mo Ibrahim Foundation. And as you know, the Mo Ibrahim Foundation is one of the most important indexes on governance in Africa.
Cdd Ghana has undertaken many projects that respond to critical governance-related challenges facing our country, Ghana. Our work falls in 7 broad thematic areas.
Well, CDD is often described as a governance think tank. Governance is a very broad term, and as you can imagine, the range of activities that we do is also broad. We do a lot of research that has as its ultimate goal constitutional, legal, and institutional reform of some of our key governance institutions. So work that seeks to improve upon the capacity and the effectiveness of our parliament, work that seeks to improve upon the effectiveness of our judiciary, and also on access to justice and non-custodial sentencing in that sort of broad area. We do a lot of work on anti-corruption and transparency and accountability. This means both supporting key anti-corruption institutions, as well as doing tracking of expenditure in certain government areas. For example, we track educational expenditure per student as given by the central government in its official budget versus what is actually spent when you go to the rural areas in the districts. Also, as you know, we have recently become an oil producing country, and we expect that oil revenue is going to be one of the key sort of drivers of good governance and bad governance in Ghana, particularly in the area of anti-corruption and transparency. Impact is always a difficult thing to measure, but we are a fairly high-profile civil society organization. We've worked with other organizations to get a disability bill passed. we have worked with our prisons and our police services to encourage them to put in place workplace policies on HIV and AIDS.
CDD Ghana has undertaken capacity building for several state and public institutions, including the Parliament of Ghana, the judiciary, and has helped improve relations between the military and the public. In recognition of the important role of media in the democratic development of any country, the Center has hosted many workshops and seminars for the media in Ghana, with the objective of building capacity and improving skills of media practitioners. An important component of the Center's work is annual lectures, where leading academics and practitioners share their views on issues relating to development and entrenchment of a liberal democracy in Ghana, as well as the building of strong institutions of state. Currently, the two annual lectures hosted by the Center are the Annual Liberal Lecture and the Krontini Akwemu Lecture.
Two of the Center's flagship annual events are the Krontini Akwemu Democracy and Governance Lecture and the Annual Liberal Lecture. The Krontini Akwemu Annual Lecture features a number of prominent scholars and practitioners in the field of democracy and good governance to come and share their thoughts, experiences, and views on the same subject with the Ghanaian public. The lectures, which commenced in 2005, have been notable for bringing onto the stage high-profile national and international personalities such as Professor Larry Diamond, a world-renowned democracy scholar based at the Hoover Institution at Stanford University in the USA. Professor Jendai Fraser, currently at the Carnegie Mellon University in the USA, but more famously, former United States Assistant Secretary for Africa. It has also featured prominent Ghanaian statesmen such as the Right Honorable Peter Alajete, former Speaker of the Parliament of Ghana, and Dr. Kodwa Farijan, the much praised, much respected Electoral Commissioner of Ghana. The most recent one featured Ms. Bisi Adeleye Fayemi, the co-founder of the very successful African Women's Development Fund. We chose for a symbol for this important public lecture the Akan Edinkra symbol of Krontini Akwemu, because in our mind it's the best depiction and it's best encapsulation of the concept of governance and democracy as a system of checks and balances, and a system in which different parts act and complement each other. The second lecture, the annual liberal lecture, is a lecture we do annually in collaboration with the Friedrich Naumann Foundation. This lecture features a theme or topic relevant to the core principles and ideals of political and economic liberalism, which also happen to be central creed of our center.
The center also maintains the highest standards in financial management, and since it relies heavily on project funding, donor confidence is a priority.
Cdd Ghana has a well-resourced and motivated finance and administrative department with effective internal controls documented in our financial and procurement manual. We are audited annually by KPMG and have specific periodic audits for donors, example for USAID, SIDA, FNF, and the European Union. Our track record of financial management competencies is a reflection of the growth in our turnover from $400,000 in 1998 to $5 million in the year 2010.
11 years of promoting democracy and good governance have certainly come with challenges.
Of course, work of this nature entails a lot of challenges. Key among the challenges we face as a center is that we are very often in the business of speaking truth to power. We also are operating in a political environment that is extremely politicized, polarized, and partisan. In this political environment, therefore, there is always a risk of stepping on the toes of some party or another in the political divide. The work also is a heavy user of financial and technocratic resources. These, of course, are always in short supply relative to how much of it we need. We spend a lot of our time and energy fundraising. We have been fortunate enough to have been able to sustain our work mainly on the basis of project and therefore short-term financing. It doesn't make it easy or even sometimes possible to focus on medium and long-term work and programs. We are still working on it. We are hoping that we succeed in building up an endowment fund for the center, a fund that is not necessarily tied to specific projects that we are commissioned to do by various clients, donors, and partners. The other challenge with financing is that given the very small size of the domestic private sector and given the highly polarized nature of Ghanaian politics, domestic private sector, that's Ghanaian private sector, has not been very generous to us. But it's also a challenge we are determined to overcome, because we believe that in the long run, that will be one of our best sources of long-term survival as an institution and sustenance in serving the public interest that we are dedicated to serving.
However, in spite of these challenges, the Center continues to excel in its core mandate of policy research and democracy promotion. In fact, CDD Ghana's outlook for the future is very positive. CDD Ghana has evolved over the years to an organization with over 40 employees. Growth inevitably comes with restructuring. That's why we have developed a new organizational structure which accommodates the expansion that we anticipate. The three main departments, research and programs, finance and administration, and resource mobilization and public affairs, have also been restructured for greater efficiency. An organization's most valuable asset is its workforce, without which it cannot achieve its core mandate. The revamped Human Resource Division has as its priority staff capacity building, and is also working with staff to address concerns that may have an impact on their output. A trained workforce, I believe, is a motivated workforce. In view of planned expansions, a new organizational structure has been developed to reflect the future direction of the center.
The center's vision to expand, as outlined in its strategic plan, means more specialization and advanced work. It is in this direction developing its infrastructure. The CDD's plans for expansion involves going beyond the borders of Ghana. In the meantime, we've set up an office in Tamale that will cater for the three northern regions, whilst the Accra office focuses on the rest of the country. Streamlining the operations of the center will mean that project funding may not in the long term be adequate. It is for this reason that we are setting up the endowment fund.
CDD Ghana's publications provide insight into various aspects of Ghana's democratic experience. It also provides consultancy services to various NGOs, donor agencies, academic and research institutions. Although CDD Ghana has taken strides in promoting democracy, good governance, and the development of a liberal political and economic environment in Ghana, it will require sustained financial independence to realize its vision in full.